Okay, February 21st, 2024. And you can see on February 12th, I put out a video. It's called, Can You Please Expand Upon Why You Feel John 11:5 is Talking About Your Cousin Mary Ann? Okay, I put that out. I didn't get any reply as far as an answer goes, but I did get an answer, so to speak, if I can find it. Right there. You see that? Why do you feel 11:5 is talking about Mary Ann by Change of Plans? All he did was copy it and resend it back to me. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it again and we're going to figure out why he said that. Well, you looky there. Stop calling me hireling, he replied to my other video. It says, Will you post something very highlighted concerning my week vacation explaining that Mary Ann should make the computer of hubby Simone LaRouche ready for to make space on next Sunday morning? Pretty please? If that is not too much to ask to either of you, whoever running this channel, still a mystery even for the owner of this channel it is. Huh. That's kind of odd because I was coming over here to do this highlighted video. The one that you didn't understand why I said, can you please expand upon why you feel John 11:5 is talking about your cousin Mary Ann? So I think we should watch it. Well, hello, Harlan. February 12th, 2024. And I was hoping to ask you a question about how you insert random names into the Bible of the people that are living today. Because what you're saying is that the Bible fulfills the scriptures by actually naming a person, and then if a character is named in the Bible, then, I think I'm getting this right, but if a character was named, it means that name was for the person who was living back 2,000 years ago. But if they aren't clear on who the name was referring to, well then, according to Hireling, those names are for the people of today to be played out.
So what I was making a point about is the thing with the names name, and how is it that in a verse there was three names named, and even though it was of the same family, one name only was not named, and we can know by deduction who it is. So um, um, there's not a doubt left for to know that the reason when the names are named and when the names are removed, blot out, okay, because you have the names removed, blot out from the book of life is one thing, and you have also the message that is giving to you as a warning. You better listen because afterward you have consequences, and the consequences is not worth it because you harden your heart to the end.
And that's why he says that his cousin, Mary Ann, is fulfilling the scriptures when it comes to Mary. And the reason for that is because of John 11:5. Because it says, Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. And he says, well, if Jesus loved them all, why does he leave out the name Mary and just say her sister? Therefore, it's got to be a Mary of today. And that's how Hireling is looking at it.
So here an example, when three names are named in the same verse, the fourth name is not named, we can know who it is and we can understand why. So here you've got Lazarus' death.
But I want to look at John 11 and we'll find out. Because every story introduces its characters, correct? And in this story, there's four main characters. You got a certain man that goes by the name of Lazarus. You have Mary and her sister Martha, which were brothers of Lazarus. And then you have Jesus. Let me read. Now a certain man was sick, named Lazarus of Bethany, the town of Mary and her sister Martha. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick.
Look here. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Since it's one big family here, how is it that it's not mentioned the name Mary Magdalene when the name Jesus is mentioned, Martha is mentioned, Lazarus is mentioned, it's all the same family, but her sister Mary Magdalene is not mentioned. But her sister Mary Magdalene is not mentioned, even though she's mentioned here halfway. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord. Well, if you want to make known which Mary it is, if you say the full name, it would be easier, right?
Okay, this is another one I wanted to ask you about, because you seem to have a problem with chapter 11, verse 2. Now it was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet dry with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Now you have a problem with that because you say that's only half of naming her, because why not say Mary Magdalene, right? That's only halfway.
Even though she's mentioned here halfway. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord. Well, if you want to make known which Mary it is, if you say the full name, it would be easier, right?
And you say, why not, use her last name, if you want to identify somebody. But that's not the way it works. First of all, Magdalene isn't her last name. Magdalene is just where she's from. She's from a place called Magdala. And so they called her Mary Magdalene. There's many Mary Magdalenes around there. Which one was she? She was the one who anointed the Lord with the ointment and wiped his feet dry with her hair. Just as if she may have saved 100 school children by lifting up a bus. She would have been the Mary that lifted up the bus, not Mary Magdalene, and you got to figure it out on your own.
Even though she's mentioned here halfway. It was that Mary which anointed the Lord. Well, if you want to make known which Mary it is, if you say the full name, it would be easier, right?
That's the way that she was described. So, yeah, Magdalene isn't her last name.
But he decided to do it like that to make significance that his name Jesus, Martha, her sister Lazarus. Who's that sister here? That would be Mary Magdalene. It was that Mary. Why it's avoided?
And it came to pass afterwards that he was journeying through towns and villages, preaching and proclaiming the good news of the kingdom of God. And with him were the 12, and a certain woman who had been cured of evil spirits and infirmities, Mary, who is called the Magdalene, from whom 7 devils had gone out. See, it wasn't just her. There were other ones too here, Hireling. You had Joanna, and she was the wife of Chusa, whoever that is. And then you had Susanna, and there were many others. So it wasn't just Mary Magdalene. That's why he didn't put the last name on, because it wasn't a last name. It's where they were from.
Why not say it?
Therefore his sister sent unto him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. When Jesus heard that he said, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that the Son of God might be glorified thereby. And here's the sticky point for Hireling. It says, Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. Like I said, he goes crazy because it doesn't say Mary.
How anybody can explain this one? Now Jesus, the name, loved Martha, the name, and her sister, no name, Lazarus, a name. So he loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when they say he loved them, well, Jesus loved many people. So who was it? Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So already Jesus loved those 3.
And he says if he loved them so much, he would have put the name Mary in there.
But then, when he says he wept because see how he loved them, Jesus wept, then said the Jews, behold how he loved them. Well, he already said he loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. But that person that was not named might be the person of them all that he loved the most.
So what I did was, silly me, I went on a search. And I want to know something, because when you look at another Bible that I happen to have, there's chapter 11. Chapter 11. Christ hears of Lazarus' illness. Now a certain man was sick, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Now it was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet dry with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. The sisters therefore sent to him, saying, Lord, behold, he whom thou lovest is sick. Says Christ decides to go to Judea. But when Jesus heard this, he said unto them, This sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God, that through it the Son of God may be glorified. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was sick, he remained 2 more days in the same place. Now I just want to put this and bring it to the attention. It says Martha down at the bottom. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and her sister Mary and Lazarus. But because the KJV and others, they don't have the name Mary in theirs, he says that it's out for a reason. It was left out for a reason.
It's the evidence of all evidence here about the names and the reason for it to be named and not be named. Martha believed Jesus could raise the dead. Her sister Mary Magdalene did not. Her sister Mary Magdalene did not.
I just don't understand how you can say those words, though, Hireling. That Martha believed Jesus could raise the dead, but Mary didn't. I'm not sure where you're getting that from. Because John 11, we can look right there where it says Martha meets Christ. We'll see what it says. Jesus therefore came and found him already 4 days in the tomb. Now Bethany was close to Jerusalem, some 15 stadia distant, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them on account of their brother. When therefore Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary remained at the home. Martha therefore said to Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever thou shalt ask of God, God will give it to thee. Martha's faith. Jesus said to her, Thy brother shall rise. Martha said to him, I know that he will rise at the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, even if he die, shall live. And whoever lives and believes in me shall never die. Dost thou believe this? She said to him, Yes, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, who has come into the world. Now that was Martha's faith. And the thing is, he doesn't ask Mary that same question. Let's see what she says. Mary's faith. And when she had said this, she went away and quietly called Mary her sister, saying, The Master is here and calls thee. As soon as she heard this, she rose quickly and came to him. For Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still at the place where Martha had met him. When therefore the Jews who were with her in the house and were comforting her saw Mary rise up and quickly go out, they followed her, saying, She is gone to the tomb to weep there. When therefore Mary came where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, and she said to him, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother would not have died. Which was the same thing that Martha said on this previous page. 21. Martha therefore said to Jesus, Lord, if thou hadst been here, my brother would not have died. Okay, does that show more belief on Martha's side than it does Mary's side? But you want to make a distinction between Martha saying that Samuel is Martha and he is a believer more so than Mary is, which is your cousin Mary Ann. See how you're tying this in there ever so cleverly? But it's not true. Jesus mourns for Lazarus. When therefore Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her weeping, he groaned in spirit and was troubled. And he said, Where have you laid him? They said to him, Lord, come and see. And Jesus wept. And the Jews therefore said, See how he loved him? But some of them said, Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind have caused that this man should not die? Lazarus restored to life. Jesus therefore, again groaning in himself, came to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was laid against it. Jesus said, Take away the stone. Martha, the sister of him who is dead, said to him, Lord, by this time he already decayed, for he is dead 4 days. Jesus said to her, Have I not told thee that if thou believe, thou shalt behold the glory of God? See, that was only asked to her. That was only asked to Martha. It wasn't asked to Mary, so you can't use that as a qualifier to Martha believed more.
Martha believed Jesus could raise the dead. Her sister, Mary Magdalene, did not. Her sister, Mary Magdalene, did not.
Okay, Hireling, let me stop it right there for a second, because I don't understand how you can say that. How can you say that Martha believed more than Mary? There's nothing that substantiates that. Even when you go back to when you first are introduced to Mary Magdalene, it's a sinful woman anoints Jesus' feet. Now one of the Pharisees asked him to dine with him. So he went into the house of the Pharisee and reclined at the table. And behold, a woman in the town who was a sinner. Upon learning he was at the table, the Pharisee's house brought an alabaster jar of ointment, and standing behind him at his feet, she began to bathe his feet with her tears, and wiped them with her hair of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with ointment. The Pharisee is shocked. Now when the Pharisee who had invited him saw it, he said to himself, This man, were he a prophet, would surely know who and what manner of woman this is who is touching him, for she is a sinner. Jesus' words to the Pharisee. And Jesus answered and said to him, Simon, I have something to say to thee. And he said, Master, speak. A certain moneylender had 2 debtors, and one owed 500 denarii, the other 50. As they had no means of paying, he forgave them both. Which of them, therefore, will love him more? Simon answered and said, He, I suppose, whom he forgave more. And he said to him, Thou hast judged rightly. And turning to the woman, he said to Simon, Dost thou see this woman? I came into thy house. Thou gavest me no water for my feet, but she has bathed my feet with tears, and has wiped them with her hair. Thou gavest me no kiss, but she, from the moment she entered, has not ceased to kiss my feet. Thou didst not oint my head with oil, but she has anointed my feet with her ointment. Wherefore I say to thee, her sins, many as they are, shall be forgiven her, because she has loved much. But he whom little is forgiven loves little. And he said to her, Thy sins are forgiven. And they were at the table with him, and began to say within themselves, Who is this man who even forgives sins? But he said to the woman, Thy faith has saved thee. Go in peace. Okay, now does that sound like she has no belief in Jesus? She's anointing his feet, wiping his feet with her tears and her hair? How does that sound like she wouldn't believe in Jesus? Which brings me over to Luke. I'm going to go to chapter 10, verse 38. It's called Martha and Mary. Now it came to pass, as they were on their journey, that he entered a certain village, and a woman named Martha welcomed him to her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also seated herself at the Lord's feet, and listened to his word. But Martha was busy about much serving, and she came up and said, Lord, it is no concern of thine that my sister has left me to serve alone. Tell her therefore to help me. But the Lord answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, thou art anxious and troubled about many things, and yet only one thing is needful. Mary has chosen the best part, and it will not be taken away from her. Now, does this sound like Martha believes more than Mary? It doesn't to me. It sounds like Martha is a nag, and she's a little peeved that her sister isn't helping her do any of the work, and everything's falling on her. So it's like, Martha, Martha, Martha. And I was kind of close. Verse 41, but the Lord answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, thou art anxious and troubled about many things, and yet only one thing is needful. Mary has chosen the best part, and it will not be taken away from her. But you're taking it away from her, hireling, by saying that she doesn't believe. Why would you do that?
Lazarus was part of the miracle, so he could not deny. And Jesus is doing it, so all the names are named but not her. So all the names are named but not her.
And anybody that's ever written a story or read a story knows that they have to introduce the characters. The certain man was Lazarus. The sisters were Martha and Mary. And then you had the Lord. Lazarus was her brother. So it's pretty clear that the characters were all introduced. And even if the KJV does say in verse 5, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus, that does not mean that the and her sister fulfills any carte blanche on what character somebody is playing.
You see how the presentation here, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So Jesus here is doing a feint. But for to open her eyes once and for all, because when my cousin told me in the night, her eyes wide open, but mine eyes were not seeing clearly.
I'm wondering how you come to this, hireling. You do it in other places too, that maybe I'll discuss later. But for now, how do we come to the conclusion that your cousin Mary Ann is Mary, the sister of Martha? Or as you say, the sister of Samuel.
So who said this? You thought it was Mary Magdalene, but it was Martha. It was Martha, not Mary Magdalene. Martha was believing more than her sister Mary Magdalene. Martha is my friend Samuel. Martha is my friend Samuel.
So, John chapter 11 has absolutely nothing to do with Martha believing more than Mary. But you have to twist the story up a little bit in order to make yours work, hireling, because Samuel is Martha. But you say Martha is a believer because Samuel is a follower of you, which means that he's a believer, I guess. But in the Bible, it doesn't have Martha believing any more than Mary or vice versa. If you were to ask me, it goes the other way around. But you have to have it look that way in order to make Samuel's testimony come into play.
Martha was believing more than her sister Mary Magdalene. Martha is my friend Samuel. Martha is my friend Samuel.
And that's how you work it in. You're crafty. That's all.
Mary Magdalene had her name not mentioned in the verse when it's talking about the name Jesus, the name Martha, the name Lazar, but the name Mary Magdalene, the name Mary was not mentioned on that verse. Why?
Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus.
It's talking about the same family, and her name was not mentioned.
And her sister Mary.
She had done something bad. Bad enough that her name would be removed.
And her sister Mary.
And her name was not named because.
And her sister Mary.
Not according to his will only, but to the will of the Father.
And her sister Mary.
It's already written in the scriptures that the more he loved them, the less he was loved back.
Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister Mary and Lazarus. You know, I want to leave it right there, Hireling, because this Bible says, and her sister Mary and Lazarus. Now, this is the only Bible that I've ever found that has it. It's the Douay-Rheims, which would be the Catholic Bible. This would be the Holy Bible. There's your whole cover page there, Hireling. Get a good look. A lot of good pictures and stuff in there, too. Doesn't matter where you get information, as long as you can cipher out the truth. I ain't telling anybody what to do. But that is what I'm saying, though. This is the only Bible that I have found that has it in it. Every other one that you go to, yep. Every other site that you go to, Bible Hub or anything like that, there's only one, and that's your Dewey Reams Bible. He's going to have it, and everybody's going to say, oh, that was written by demons, and that's a conspiracy, you know. Well, if it's a conspiracy, that means all the other Bibles, they didn't want to take part in the conspiracy. None of them wanted to put Mary's name in there, just the Catholics. Okay. You see how kind of far-fetched that is, Hireling. But it's up to whomever to believe whatever. But I showed proof that it does say, and her sister Mary. So, where does that make your story sit, Hireling? That is why I asked the question. You returned it to me asking about Mary Ann being related to John 11:5. Asking me again? You knew. You were just playing games. Maybe this time when you come back from your little vacation, you can ask. Oh, and Mary Ann, Hireling asked me to give you a special note to Sunday morning. Have your hard drive, enough space in Simon's hard drive to download all of his videos. Hopefully some of them will be answers to my questions. Probably not. Probably not many. We'll see. We'll see you when you get back from vacation, Hireling.